Black Hollow was a town cloaked in shadows even on the brightest day. The trees seemed to reach out with skeletal fingers. The wind whistled through them, sounding like mournful cries. At the edge of town stood a house. It was a husk of rotting wood and shattered windows. No one dared to go near it. Locals whispered tales about the house. They spoke of cold spots and strange lights. Some claimed to hear screams echoing from within. The stories sent shivers down their spines, but not Mark's. He was new to Black Hollow. He scoffed at their superstitions. Mark didn't believe in ghosts. He thought the stories were silly. He figured the house was just old and creaky. He decided to prove everyone wrong. One crisp autumn evening, Mark set off toward the house. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of blood orange and deep purple. His breath formed clouds in the cooling air. He felt a thrill of excitement, not fear. Mark reached the front gate. It creaked open with a groan. He stepped onto the overgrown path. Each step crunched on dead leaves and broken twigs. He approached the front porch. The wood sagged beneath his weight. He tested the doorknob. It turned with a rasping sound. He pushed the door open. The air inside was stale and cold. It smelled of decay and something else, something faintly sweet and metallic. He pulled out his flashlight and clicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He took a tentative step inside. The floorboards groaned in protest. He was surrounded by shadows that seemed to writhe and twist. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing in the silence. Only the creaking of the house answered him. He told himself it was just the wind. Mark moved deeper into the house. He entered the living room. The fireplace was filled with ashes, cold and long dead. A rocking chair swayed slightly in the corner. He could have sworn it hadn't been moving before. He continued exploring. Each room was emptier and dustier than the last. Cobwebs clung to every surface. He heard a soft whisper coming from upstairs. He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He slowly made his way up the creaking staircase. The whispers grew louder. They seemed to be coming from the room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar. He took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The room was dark, except for a sliver of moonlight coming through the window. He could make out the shape of a figure standing in the shadows. "Who's there?" Mark's voice shook. The figure turned. Its eyes glowed with a faint, eerie light. Mark gasped. It was the ghostly figure of a young woman in a tattered white dress. Her face was pale and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to stare right through him. She moved towards him, gliding silently across the floor. Mark stumbled back, his heart racing. He tripped over his own feet and fell to the ground. The ghostly figure reached out a hand towards him. Her touch sent a chill down his spine. Mark scrambled back, scrambling to his feet. He ran out of the room, down the stairs and out of the house. He didn't stop running until he reached the safety of the streetlights. He gasped for breath, his chest heaving. He looked back at the house. It stood silently against the night sky. But now he could see a faint light flickering in one of the upstairs windows. He knew then that the stories were true. An old man with a cane was walking by. He had seen Mark running from the house. "You saw it too, didn't you?" the old man said, his voice raspy. Mark just nodded, too shaken to speak. "That house, it's cursed. People say those who enter never truly leave." Mark turned and fled into the night, the old man's words echoing in his ears.